All right. So what are we talking? We're talking Elon Musk, right?
Yeah, so I think sometime last week, I think I was yelling at one of my chatters who's like a big Elon Musk stan. Um, Lovable, but frustrating. And I posted on Twitter that's like, I need to talk to somebody who, believes the hype about Elon because I don't understand how someone can kind of like rationalize a lot of the stuff that he says and does and think that he's some kind of whatever your imagined being of Elon Musk is, like the
He's not a
Ubermensch.
benevolent figure
Yeah,
by any means.
like
I hope you don't think I want to make that clear. I'm not coming in here like he's not Lord Elon to me. So
right. I think a lot of it exists on a spectrum too, whereas like some people fully like have drank the Kool-Aid, and some people kind of maybe have misconceptions about things he has done that he kind of hasn't. So I don't know where you kind of lie on that.
so here's my issue: is like when you say things that he's done but hasn't.
Right.
Are we talking about like he has a crew or a team of engineers and incredibly smart people that work for the companies that he owns, and they do like 95 to 98% of the work on these projects? Is that what you're talking about? Or are you saying like he's literally never, like he's never done anything worth like calling an accomplishment?
Well, I mean, I guess it would depend on kind of where you're coming from, because all of that, right? So,
Okay.
yes, he doesn't design or, do any of the engineering behind any of his projects. He also isn't like the founder of Tesla or create PayPal, or in the most extreme kind of, Kool-Aid drinking, I guess, a self-made billionaire, right?
He was, correct me if I'm wrong, he was in fact one of the majority investors in both of PayPal and SpaceX or in Tesla. Yeah, obviously there were other people that were involved in the creation of those companies, but he was like a major part to the creation of those companies. No.
Not Tesla. Martin Eberhard and Mark Terpening were the founders. Elon Musk bought that position. He paid them to put his name down as a founder. The only thing he's done for
But
Tesla
he was
is
an
that
initial investor.
that's not a founder.
No, well, yeah. I've never claimed him to be, but
Right.
I would credit somebody um, equally as much as seeing the, like, trusting the vision of those guys and being like, hey, I'm going to shell out all this money to you because I believe in that vision. And then he believed in it so much that he actually then bought it and kind of reworked it, right?
Would you qualify like most venture capitalists as like being founders of companies?
Again, I wouldn't call them founders, but I would give
give them the credit of it.
Yeah, I would. Their accomplishment list is going to include that company because they were
Interesting.
pivotal in that company, becoming what it was. Obviously, I'm not gonna give as much praise to the person as, like, take Apple for example. I'm not gonna Steve Jobs is gonna get a lot more like praise than one of the guys that heavily invested in Apple right off the rip and got it going. But I would still say that person is also didn't say that's an accomplishment of theirs.
Okay. I kind of see how you're rationalizing that then. Okay. I mean, if that's the metric that you're using, then I mean, sure, I guess. I wouldn't consider an investor as like pivotal to the success of a company or its takeoff.
I apologize. Can you hear that knocking?
I don't think so.
Oh, I was talking to Major. Okay, cool.
Oh, okay.
You can't. Yeah, I got. It sounds like somebody's doing fucking construction
Jesus.
today on a Monday at noon or at 1. Anyway, so again, I wouldn't say it's nearly as important, or I wouldn't give them as much credit. But I've never said that Elon Musk, and I don't think anybody should believe Elon Musk is like Tony Stark in his fucking garage cooking up all these like crazy gadgets and shit, and then that's getting mass produced by Tesla or SpaceX or any of these companies or anything. However, we have to understand and like how difficult like it is to run these massive corporations, and how certain small decisions can lead to like drastic like financial outcomes when you're talking about billion-dollar corporations. The fact that he's been able to handle multiple of them, create like to make them leaders, the spearheads of their industry, with SpaceX and Tesla, it just seems like
You think Tesla is like the spearhead of like the EV industry?
Oh my God, absolutely. The only reason that any other like EV car companies can be competitive with Tesla is because Elon fucking gave the patent out to him and made it fucking public knowledge.
Yeah, but Teslas don't perform the same way that other EVs on the market do. And they're not even like original. Like the first like commercial EV was in like 95. It was a Mitsubishi.
Yeah, I didn't say that Tesla created the EV. They absolutely didn't. But they absolutely created the like first sustainable and like practical EV battery. That battery has then just launched us into a whole new world with these vehicles, where they're not only competitive with gas and diesel vehicles, but they're arguably better.
I mean, you can make the argument that Elon Musk is very good at marketing. His sole job as CEO, because all of these decisions that are like made within the company, Elon Musk isn't making these decisions. That's why we have managers, we have operations officers, we have a whole team of people who are behind these things. He'll sign off on, these things here and there, but Elon Musk is not reading the fine print of these things. But for Teslas, they consistently don't perform at their advertised EPA ratings. They don't, they're notoriously poorly constructed. A lot of them are rushed out and not even shipped in their proper working condition. They're catching on fire a lot. Their automated driving doesn't work consistently. And a lot of the patches that they ship out on these things, because they all like kind of patch through Wi-Fi, a lot of the patches fuck up consistently. So if we're looking at like who's leading the way in EVs, it would be someone like Porsche, who is actually top performing in EV markets.
Is Porsche creating like affordable vehicles, like vehicles that can be afforded by middle class families, which is like typically what you're, I mean, yes, obviously I'm going to say that
all
like
of these
Porsche
are luxury vehicles,
Porsche is
right?
probably making one of the an amazing fucking EV, but like if most people can't utilize that, I don't really care.
Most people can't utilize Teslas either. Teslas are
Well,
average
absolutely.
100,000.
Don't they have a Tesla that's like 30 grand? It's like $30,000 to buy it new.
That would be news to me. Most of them are around $100,000.
New Tesla affordable model. Because I just heard this stat not that long ago, and I was like, oh wow, shit, I might actually then consider buying it. Okay. Yeah, see, they're talking about having a one this year come out for $25K, the Tesla hatchback.
Talking about they have do we have any like
2023? If they're announcing it, that means it's
if there's like review models out, like what's his name, Marquise Brownlee, like the big tech reviewer guy on YouTube, he gets all of these test models for these EVs that companies are putting out. He did one for the Taycan, he did one for the Hyundai Grandeur, I think he got a model of a concept from Hyundai. So if they're saying they're going to put one out, but we haven't had like reviews, like actual user reviews, I would like to see that.
But they do have one out. It's the Tesla Model 3. That one costs $48,190. And obviously that's going to slightly differ per state, but roughly 50 grand. And I'm not saying that's a cheap car, but it's also not an unaffordable car.
I mean, there are like F-250s that are more expensive than that.
I mean, you can't buy a fucking Chevy Blazer for less than that.
Like the newer ones? I think because let me tell you, brother, as a man who drives a Chevy Blazer, they're dirt cheap. At least like the older models, right?
How much do you pay for your Chevy? Oh, it's 35? I thought it was 55.
That sounds about right.
Look at me. Okay, never mind.
So, I mean,
still, my point being,
even if they are creating affordable, more accessible Teslas that are like in the 30 to 40,000 range, access to charging ports is a big part of this problem because you can only charge your Teslas at Tesla stations, and it's not scaled yet. So we're kind of creating these things that aren't accessible to most people. You would have to be in some like liberal coastal elite like area where EVs are more regular. If you're like me and I'm in like rural Louisiana, there is one charging station and it is at a mall. That's it. So
I would agree with you to an extent that right now the infrastructure is not there to make a majority of the country, like, we couldn't transition to EVs right now because it just wouldn't work on an infrastructure level. There's too much to do. However, it's like we're seeing these charging stations and the progress being made even in places like Ohio. We have I mean, they're not everywhere, but you're seeing these charging stations pop up at grocery stores. You're seeing them pop up at, like you said, malls, strip malls, anywhere where people are going to be shopping or going to eat, where it's going to be like 30 minutes to 40 minutes, maybe an hour, where they can charge the vehicle. And it's going to take a long time for these the amount of charging stations to match the need you would need required. I don't think that really matters because the transition to EVs is going to be, the EVs is going to be slow anyway.
Well, sure. Yeah. I mean, also there's like financial interests that want to not see electronic vehicles being the what everybody drives. I know Exxon is trying to, at least on the surface level, trying to do more green energy projects, but we'll see how that goes. But it's not the solution that we're looking for. This is a commercial individual solution instead of actually looking at real transportation solutions that we could be having. The electronic vehicle thing is a dead end because the actual production of them is just as bad. Yeah,
just bad on the environment. And like, listen, I as a advocate for the continuation of the continued use of fossil fuels at the present moment until I'm provided with something that is better and that we can actually do without using fossil fuels. I really don't care all that much.
Are you a nuke head?
I think nuclear is probably a pretty viable option. I'm not a fucking scientist.
I mean, me either.
Claim to be. I've been told several times by a lot of people that nuclear is a very it's not,
got some promising
considered
stuff.
Renewable.
Yeah,
but it's good. It's much better than fossil fuels for the environment.
Yeah, the only issue is
I do want to move. I want to move back to
Yeah.
Musk and not so much on Tesla because I'm not really all that well versed in EVs. I do know a little bit about Tesla because I looked into it for this talk. But what are your thoughts on SpaceX is obviously the spearhead of that industry, the private side of that industry? No.
I don't see any purpose in privatizing the exploration of space or any kind of commercial enterprise with space.
What about the rapid innovation we've seen since that's been kind of moved to the private sector? Now have reusable rockets. We've had
reusable rockets for the last 25 years.
No, SpaceX it was a big deal. I don't know how long ago it was.
Yeah,
but
Falcon Heavy.
SpaceX. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how long ago.
That's not the first of its kind.
I read in 5 different sources that was the first rocket to take off, return, and then take off again.
Maybe take off again, but we've had like returning fuselages for a couple decades.
Yes, they've been able
scale.
to return. Yeah, they've been able to return, but like they've never been able to shoot them back off. That's a huge deal. No, like imagine if
it's
every
like
time
what we've had so far is like you
plane,
recycle it basically.
remember, if every time we flew a plane, we then had to build another whole fucking plane, this, you know, air travel would be nowhere. But
yeah,
obviously with innovations like this, and I don't know, I know docking, they've done a lot with like how these spacecraft will be able to dock and do it more safely. And then I know they've made a lot of advancements in like the range of the distance that these vehicles can travel. So I'm not saying, again, I'm a huge proponent of public funding and like making it, like having the public sector start projects. And because a lot of times there's no profit incentive for these massive giant projects, but like once the government establishes like a good base, get your fucking hands off it. Let the private market do what it does best, innovate, and drive the price down on all this shit.
I mean, that would be cool if so the great lie that a lot of these guys like Elon will tell is that, like, you know, they innovated because the private market, you know, in the free market hands got those innovations. All of that technology is U.S. military. All of that technology already existed in the U.S. military's research department.
It started as U.S. military technology, then became declassified or was presented to the public, and then there have been adjustments off that base that have now created much, much better versions of that first thing.
No, what they did is they commoditized it. They turned it into a purchasable. Like if we look at like internet, right? That's government research. Microwaves, government research. Velcro, government research. Cell phones, touchscreen technology. All of this
GPS.
is government research. What's that?
Did you say GPS?
I might have. I think I was rambling. All of that government research. The only difference is that it was commoditized, made for a commercial purpose. That's it. It's not that they innovated. They just took existing things and made them purchasable. That's it.
I'm sorry, but I wholeheartedly disagree, and I feel like you're kind of being disingenuous if you're saying that these items have stayed the exact same way that they did when the government developed them. The companies took them and are just selling that thing. They obviously took that thing, put their spin on it, did something different with it, made it so their version of it was better than their competitor's version of it. They did this back and forth, and this creates a driving down of prices. That's why cell phones now aren't fucking, well, brand new iPhones are still several thousands of dollars,
right?
$1,000 plus. But like, this is why you see these things over time drop in price. It's not because they become there's less demand or yeah, it's just like there's innovation, and then that innovation leads to cheaper production models, and then because of economies of scale, we're able to then, you know, develop cheaper and cheaper goods. And you may not like the commodity form, but most people do, including myself.
Oh no, I love the kind of hedonistic, you know, commercializing of it. I love having a bunch of different flavors of Oreos. All I'm saying is that where this credit for innovating is coming from, I think is being put on the wrong, the ownership of that innovation, I think, is being put on the wrong people, being given to the wrong names under the wrong intentions. Does that make sense?
Talking to, yes, 100%, and you were talking to way too many dumb fuck righties who are just seeing Elon now as a mascot for their team, so they're generalizing and saying like he fucking built the Tesla Model S, and
yeah, well, they're the loudest ones, right?
Yes, but like the fact of the matter is this man is the richest man on the planet by a fucking wide margin. And
you think he earned that?
think he's earned a good portion of it. I'm sure you could say that there's a section of it that comes from his family money.
Oh, I mean, you could say that all of it is because of his family money.
Listen, we're probably going to disagree here, but I don't think just because you start off with money and then accrue more of it, all of that accrual was done simply because you had money at the start.
No, it's not just
you
money.
You have to,
It's not just money. It's influence, resources, networking. We have an expression. I mean, I'm sure you've heard it. We have an expression. I have a lot of Euro people in here, so I sometimes have to explain, regular colloquialisms. It's not who you know, it's how you know them. That is the advantage that Elon has.
Honestly, on my 26 years, I've never heard that.
Really?
I've heard it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Oh yeah, that doesn't matter. You can. I know. What's the politician or news commentator guy? He's from Louisiana. I always forget his name, but he's always wearing like LSU gear. He's like bald. Not Kenneth Copeland. That's the pastor.
And what does he do now?
He's like a MSNBC CNN contributor. They call him the Raging Cajun. Carville. Yeah, I know. I always forget his name, but I know James Carville's family. I could get James Carville on the phone if I wanted to.
Okay.
But I don't know him like that.
Yes, but you do recognize that having the ability just to get that phone call and give yourself the opportunity is what a lot of people see the value in. Is like, obviously, because you're jumping a whole step ahead. You're assuming we already know these people. You got to know somebody first, and then it's how you know them, right?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, we both agree. I'm just saying, like, knowing someone in your family knows them, they're a family friend, or you're an alum, their dad was an alum, like these kinds of connections, like that's what makes the difference between like the millionaires and the billionaires.
It sucks because like I'm gonna sit here and say like
we don't have to get lost on the expression
on a general level, but obviously you have plenty of examples of what you're saying being wholeheartedly true. And then I could point to the famous examples of people who have like come from nothing and then made themselves into something. The problem I see when people have this conversation is it's like obviously it takes a little bit of both. Nobody's saying Elon wasn't extremely lucky to have like to get the cards that he was dealt to him, but like he still had to make something out of those cards. He didn't just take the money that he was given and rest on his loyal. I can't remember the phrase. Just take it easy and not do anything and just leech off of society and never give anything back. But that's not what he's done. He's taken the money that he was given and the people that he knew and the connections that he's made since then into 4 or 5 different business ventures that are $1 billion plus. He's and not just that, but then like you look at like his philanthropy, he's donating more than I think 50% or 60% of his wealth for the rest of his life, including
that's for taxes though, right?
Huh?
That's for taxes. He doesn't give a fuck about that shit.
Do you want these people to donate their money or not?
No, I want them to be taxed.
Okay, well, you don't have an issue with the billionaires then. You have an issue with the tax structure of our government, right?
Well, no, I definitely have an issue with billionaires. Like, that shouldn't be a thing for sure. This is philosophically, ethically, right? But there's not going to be some vanguard revolution where we like take billionaire money and we like put it back into some kind of program, like, right? So what I want is for them to be taxed, Oop, you okay?
So yeah, I get my bad. Sorry, there's
Oh,
a
you're good.
fire engine going by. So okay, how do I want to start this? So it's not just billionaires. There's just not that many billionaires in the country and really in the world for this to really matter. But when we scale that back to like millionaires too,
Mm-hmm.
these people in these income brackets are paying the vast sum of our taxes, like the taxes that we collect currently. I think it's people who make over $250,000 a year are I think 90% or 95% of the tax revenue generated by the government.
Not in
And
the
then when you
effective
scale-
tax rate, but again, this comes back to, your network, who you know, how you know them. People who have this much wealth, when we're talking about in the millions, have access to accountants who can take advantage of those tax loopholes. Whereas your average person, half the country's making less than 30,000 or 30,000 or less, and they don't have access to that. Why should they, millionaires, billionaires, the people who own shit, why should they have more access to those loopholes than we should? Because
they have more
we fuck up our taxes, the
money.
IRS is coming for our ass. Not necessarily going to do it for the millionaires and billionaires.
No, absolutely they are. And those millionaires and billionaires are the ones that have the closest eye. They're typically audited anyway.
Yeah, they pay a $100,000 fine and then they get over it. That's not the effect isn't the same on people who are just working class people.
Well, while I'll agree, because obviously when you have that level of like that amount of resources, when you compare that against somebody who's fucking barely making ends meet, working a 9-to-5 job, and is let alone they're trying to fucking put food in their refrigerator. They're not worried about getting a CPA to take care of their taxes. But talking about paying their fair share, or making sure that the people that are making all this money are paying into the system at a proportional rate. And I would say that when they're giving us millionaires and billionaires like half of our tax revenue, the revenue generated from tax, and then when you scale it back to like people making 250,000, it goes all the way up to damn near 90. It seems like they're paying their fair share when they're taking care of the other 90% of the fucking country.
Yeah, but not whenever their actual wealth isn't in their income. It's not in liquid assets. You know this. It's all built in their stocks.
Yeah, but I'm sorry to act like we should tax capital gains is a ludicrous idea. Nobody will ever invest in the stock market. That money is not realized. If it's not realized, I'm sorry. How are you going to tax it?
So you're saying if we're going to tax capital gains, then no one is going to invest in the stock market?
I didn't say no one will
Well,
invest in the
less
stock market,
people
but
would.
it's going to take a massive hit.
So you understand?
Massive hit.
You understand that it's predatory then, right? That they're only investing this way because it's unrealized gains?
No, because it can become realized gains. Listen, obviously you can play games and you can manipulate unrealized earnings much more easily than you can realized earnings, and people do all the time. However, if you were to remove that ability, you would not only be like hurting the millionaires and billionaires, you would be fucking crushing everybody that has a fucking a Roth IRA, anybody that has a fucking retirement plan, anybody that invests in the stock market as like as a day trader.
That's
like,
not a justification, though.
It absolutely is a justification,
because
the money
you're
generated
admitting
there
that
has created the sole hegemony in the world, and an economy so vast and so powerful that it now dictates the entire rest of the world's economy.
No, you're admitting that it's predatory because if those gains somehow become realized and they're taxed on that, then that in the or depression of people investing, right, is going to affect people's retirement. So we're already admitting that if we tax the billionaires at a higher rate on their capital gains, that is going to affect people's retirement. That is predicated, their survival is predicated on billionaires making more money, not them, not people with their retirements and their 401ks, but it's going to benefit the billionaires.
You're taxing fucking the grandma who's got a fucking retirement plan that she's about to fucking withdraw. That's who you'd be fucking, because for those 40 years that she was accruing interest on untaxable income, you then say, fuck you, we're gonna tax that shit at what, 2-3%? You know how much money that is when you're talking about a fucking $1 million retirement plan? No. Two to three, and you're not just talking the lump sum of it, you're talking 2 to 3 years, year over year.
We're talking about a progressive tax on gains.
Explain that to me.
Okay. And again, I'll preface this with that I'm not a super well-versed guy on taxes, right? It needs to happen though. All right.
Neither am I, but
I'm
curious to what you're about to say here.
So it's progressive. Grandma with a retirement doesn't have investments in the stock market, right? She might have a couple like penny stocks here and there, railroad bonds from whenever, she was buying them for her kids, right? But their 401k, their retirement, their pension, if that is predicated on the people who own these stocks not being taxed on those gains that they make year over year or quarter over quarter, then you're admitting that all of these people are being held hostage by people who are not getting taxed at the same rate that, working class people are.
They're not. Why do you keep saying they're being held hostage?
Because
people are not being held hostage.
So if we tax them, right, you're saying that that's going to affect the IRAs and
it's going to hurt them.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to hurt the money that they end up with.
Right. So those people with their retirement who aren't being taxed, right? Whenever the billionaires are taxed through their capital gains, you're saying that is going to affect those retired people. That us actually making people who have way more money than they need to, than anyone could ever spend, that taxing them is going to affect retired grandma? Well, that's holding her hostage.
So if you were to tax unrealized gains, unrealized earnings, every single person who has a retirement plan, because those retirement plans are a package of investments in different companies, bonds, like there's a lot of shit that those the retirement plans use to generate the money they accrue over time. You were to tax those, that person is going to end up with less money at the end of the day than if you were to not tax them year over year and then just tax it at the end when they become realized earnings.
But yeah, we can do that at the end of the year. Yeah, that's fine.
So you are now going to take 2 to 3% every single year out of people's retirement plans. People that are working and making like 60 grand a year. Those are the people you want to take money away from year over year as their retirement plan earns or increases in value.
So you think that these people who have these retirement plans have a right to them, right?
Like
they're entitled to that.
They invested their money. Yeah,
they're entitled to it.
Money.
Okay. So why can't they be in a different holding? So why can't we structure this tax rate so that the gains that we're taxing on aren't affecting people's retirement?
I mean, I get what you're saying. I don't know how you do that at a administrative level. That's you'd spend more money. You'd spend more money trying to like figure that out than you ever
Jerked
would
off the money
generate,
machine.
Kidnotkin is our new Gremloe. Right pointing finger.
So why
Heart.
it
Left
doesn't matter.
pointing finger.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that last part? I got a notification. I forgot to silence them.
You're good. It wouldn't. I'm sorry. Why is there so much shit going on? Now there's a fucking vacuum.
We both got so much shit going on right now.
I know. I
I'm sorry.
apologize.
No,
What?
you're good.
Train
Yeah,
of thought
it's
has
just
left
a
the
pension plan, right? Like it's a secure holding for later on, right?
Not really. I mean, it's money that is, that they put in every single paycheck typically, and then their company matches a certain percent, and then that accrues over, their 40, 50 year working lifetime, and then at the end of it, they pull that money out, and then it gets taxed. Or if you fucking pull it out early, the government comes and fucking taxes it at like 40%, I think. If you're saying like, okay, well, that's what we were talking about. I was saying that if you were to try to enforce this, where you implement the taxing on unrealized gains, but you only do it to people that make that earn in a certain income bracket, the administration that you would need and the bureaucracy that would come along with it would end up costing more money than whatever amount of money you would generate from taxing these unrealized gains in the millionaire class.
How much money do you think this will cost? Ballpark, doesn't have to be specific.
I don't know. I don't know, but the IRS costs a fuckload of money as it is, and if you add another massive program or portion to this, they're already overwhelmed. They're already not. They're letting shit slip through the cracks. We're already not probably collecting nearly as much tax revenue as they could be. I'm not saying personally. I'm a big not a huge taxation guy, but from the government's perspective, it's like they're already not collecting as much as they'd like to. Adding this huge task to their plate would only, end up probably fucking shit up more.
Right. So,
in my opinion,
I'm just so I can steel man this for you because I don't want to, whatever. You think that operating in a way that would, move those funds to the appropriate area through taxation would cost more than they would get out of it?
I think the bureaucracy costs a lot of money to
Yeah, but it's not going to cost hundreds of billions of dollars year over year. Right? There's no way it would cost that much.
Several billions, yes.
Several billion, right? And there are hundreds of billions generated through these unrealized gains.
There would be hundreds of billions of dollars generated from the tax on unearned or unrealized gains for just the millionaires and billionaires that have stock portfolios, is what you're saying.
I mean, that's where all of Elon Musk's wealth is, right? All in his unrealized gains.
But you're
right?
not talking about taking all of his.
No, I'm not talking about taking all of it, right? I'm talking about taking a lot of it, for at least
a small percentage of it.
Well, for
year over year over year.
I mean, if I got my dream, it would be a lot, right? But it's obviously not going to be like a whole lot. So there would be, okay, let's be fair, right? Let's be more realistic. Tens of billions, okay, maybe not hundreds of billions, but a lot. That's generated through this type of taxation, right? Talking heavy taxation, but realistic on the top earners, right? Top 3% of earners. Yeah, it would be tens of billions. And I don't think the operating cost of the IRS would be that high. And like you said, part of the cost right now is the bureaucracy. I'd like to see that, streamlined.
I think we should worry about shit like that and figuring shit out like that before we just go okay, we should tax unearned unrealized gains, and it's like,
I think it would be a good way of funding that kind of streamlining.
Again, I mean, if we lived in a world where you could perfectly make this happen, where
right.
Actually, you know what? I'm not even
right?
gonna grant you that. I'm not even gonna grant you that, because the amount of I think you quickly, if you started taxing unrealized earnings, you'd see a mass exodus, I think, from that.
Oh, well, we can just take their companies.
You wouldn't see. Well, actually, you wouldn't even see billionaires anymore. If you implemented that, there would be no billionaires. And I know that's a world that you want to live in.
I know. I can only get so erect.
Yeah, I know. As a person who one day hopes to be a billionaire, you know, I hope every single person becomes a billionaire. I hope you're all successful, wonderful, fucking live happy lives. But I'm not gonna shit on somebody just because you're not gifted $1 billion. Like, you gotta make a lot of correct decisions. You have to make gotta do a lot of shit correct.
What's Elon's current net worth? It's like it's a lot, right?
It's like $230 billion, I think. I don't know.
I thought it was more than that.
If he buys Twitter,
I don't know why, but I thought it was a digit or two higher than that. Maybe with the Twitter buyout, it's inflated.
264.6 billion,
right?
And this is obviously before Twitter buys.
Like, how much of that did he earn though? Through his,
I don't know.
his labor.
How much of that was he given? You tell me that.
Well, his father gave him $1 million when he got his BA in what was it? He got his BA in econ. And
really quick, can we both agree that he is an incredibly intelligent human?
No.
Like, there's okay, is academic like success and prowess?
You got a BA in econ, a bachelor. You got a BA in econ and a BA major in physics. He went to Stanford and then dropped out before.
He dropped out of grad school.
Yeah. So I think that was when he went to pursue PayPal, and that's when his dad gave him $1 million and paid for his housing.
I don't know. There's also all these like stories and these things about him being incredibly advanced and like taking courses that are supposed to take 3 months and several days and shit. I don't know if any of that's true.
That's marketing.
I don't know if any of that's true.
Come on,
all I'm saying is that
I don't think Elon Musk is more intelligent than your average bachelor's degree holder.
I just think that's ludicrous. Like, have you met the average bachelor's degree holder?
Mm-hmm. I run a show every Thursday called Ministry of Science. We have a bunch of bachelor's degree undergrads, professors, and PhD candidates. And I can tell you, Elon Musk, not respected among the academic community.
Okay, that's okay. I'm in academia, obviously, but I don't know how you could say that he's not well respected by like academia, because I'm sure I could go and find you. I'm sure I could go and find you countless academics.
Sure, yeah, we could both do that.
Well, right? That's what I'm saying, but that's what you just presented as like an argument against him. I'm just saying, like, I'm not gonna take some section of academics' word against another section of academics' word.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying you would have to do that. That's just like the perspective and experiences I've had in interacting with people within, academics. No, not really. He likes to, he and his kind of stands like to tout his like IQ level. But I'm a sociologist and we don't use IQ as a metric. It's a tool among our tool belt, but it's not like, it's very contested IQ levels.
Like I would say, yeah, I would agree with you. I don't think IQ is like a perfect barometer of somebody's intelligence, but it just seems like there are just like so many compounding factors
Well, I guess how is he smart?
To add right? to his legacy, and maybe I'm falling for the bullshit, but like
maybe
I've listened to him talk. You know, on a number of occasions, and I mean, I'm sorry, you can't listen to him talk and go, "That's a fucking stupid guy."
So this is not like a gotcha, but do you think what do you think of Jordan Peterson? We're not going to have to go into this very long.
No, I'm not like no. I think Jordan Peterson is probably a great tool for the fucking broken and misfortunate toys of this world.
Right.
I think some people need to be told to clean their room. Some people need to be told to not be a dickhead and not lie and not cheat and steal or whatever. But like, yeah, right. I think.
But he's perceived as like this very like intelligent, whether you agree or not. The perception of Jordan Peterson is that he's very intelligent, right? That's because
and the same thing happens. The cult of personality shit happens with Elon Musk. Yeah. I totally agree with you. However, that does not mean Elon Musk is a stupid or dumb man. And my problem a lot of times.
I don't think he's stupid. I don't think he's like super intelligent though. I don't think he's like a
I didn't call the man a genius.
Right.
So I'm just saying he's probably an incredibly intelligent man by every bit that I can get from him. However, it seems like there are a lot of people, particularly on the left right now, that want to just say he is stupid or dumb or it's just like that. Like he stumbled into this shit. And it's like he's done too many different things to have stumbled into all of it.
I think a kind of amalgamation of the kind of head start he got because of the environment he grew up in, the access to things that he had, and also no small amount of falling ass backwards into success. A lot of this shit is just gambling on things that you hope will work out because you had the money to be able to make that gamble.
I mean, then why don't we see more people have like this perception around them? Like why aren't there more Elon Musk? Why is he unique? What makes him unique? Is it the brand? You think it's just he's good at branding and he's just
Yeah, I think he's very good at marketing. Very, very good. Like in regards to his ability to read a room and like, you know, market himself, that is genius level. 100%. In that regard, very, very intelligent and smart.
Okay. I mean, I wholeheartedly agree. I would say that if you can monetize that and use that to like advance yourself in your life, then I think that's arguably as important as any other ability or intelligence or whatever. So it's just like, it's tough for me because again, I do not dick ride Elon Musk. I don't care. I think he is a positive unto society, and I think that there are a number of examples that you can point to and say he is doing good things and wants to progress humanity in a positive manner. I think you can also point to a lot of people that are in his same category that are not doing that and don't try to do these things, and I'm not saying they're evil or they just don't do anything. Then I could see like, okay, you could bitch about that person, but it just seems like Elon Musk is not the person, not the hill that you want to die on when you're like, fuck that guy, he's horrible, evil, fucking he wants to blow up the planet and send his body to Mars or some shit.
I don't think he's evil. I certainly think that sociopaths are overrepresented within the wealthy class, but I don't know if I would necessarily ascribe that to him. But I also don't see the altruistic, like, humanity saver, or maybe that's a little flowery language, but I don't see, like, where the good is.
Well, do you see... Well, you obviously... I'm assuming you see the benefit in, like, creating, like, renewable forms of energy and see the benefit and trying to explore other options outside of Earth. I don't know if everybody thinks that's a good thing or a positive thing, but I would say it is, and a lot of people would say it is.
I would say, like, if I had my utopian dream, it would be kind of like Star Trek, right? Like fully automated luxury
but
gay space.
Come on, we don't get to Star Trek without a motherfucker like Elon and having a company that develops products and does research and develop that creates innovations that leads to start this.
There are no billionaires in Star Trek. Money doesn't exist in Star Trek.
It did to create the Starfleet.
No, they abolished currency in order.
I never saw fucking.
That's okay. That's okay.
I'm just assuming that they're.
This is deep lore. They abolished currency in order to create the Federation.
They abolished it.
Yeah.
So they start, but there was a point where. So in the Star Trek lore, it took the abolishment of money for them to get out there and start fucking shit up in space.
No. So basically what happened was they realized that money was a hindrance, that currency, the exchange, was a hindrance on human expansion. So they moved beyond it and worked simply for the advancement of their species.
See, I knew I didn't like Star Trek.
Yeah, just had the whole thing ruined, huh? Yeah, Picard talks about it in an episode. He's like, no, we've moved beyond the need for it.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I don't know how we got there. But yeah, I like space stuff. I grew up on, like, Neil deGrasse Tyson and, like, oh god, now I'm forgetting the name. Cosmos. Who did the first one? Chat, help me out. Who did Cosmos?
God.
You know who I'm talking about.
Stephen Hawking is the only other dude in that field that I could name off the top of my head.
So, but yeah, Carl Sagan. Yeah, I grew up on that kind of shit.
Sagan.
I love the idea of exploring space, but we need to. My focus is on, like, the planet that I live on, and while we are doing any kind of hoarding of anything, right? Resources, minerals, power, wealth, that is a hindrance on humanity. That's the perspective that I come from. That if we're hoarding anything in one or a small group of people's pockets, or, you know, they're safe, then that is to the detriment of other people. If we're going to call it a game, somebody has to lose.
I don't ascribe to that
Sure.
worldview. I don't believe in it's a fixed pie fallacy. I don't think this is a zero-sum game. I don't think by you earning income, you took that income away from anybody else.
Well, I'm talking about income.
Or income is used to generate wealth, and then that wealth is, I'm assuming what you're talking about, this long-term wealth.
I mean, we would have to get into, like, labor theory stuff, but, you know, we don't have to do that.
Yes.
I
was gonna say,
yeah.
This conversation could become like a 3-hour.
Yeah. We don't have to get in that. You know, lefty. You know, I don't really like throw the labels on, like socialist or anything like that. But you get, like, where my perspective is coming from.
I think you can probably take it again.
Sure. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, you have a SNEC in the background. I have LGBT lights. We know who's who in this, right?
I will say I need some bisexual lighting. I am in the market for some.
What people are starting to move to is actually just, like, warm lighting, like soft warm lighting in the background. Make it feel like a home.
Cozy,
you know?
like cozy cabin feel.
Yeah, exactly. Cabin core. You got it.
A little bit of wood. Have a wood background.
Yeah, some artificial plants. Yeah, you got it. That would look nice.
Well, yeah. The thing is like I'm currently moving around a bunch, and I'm in Washington D.C. at the moment, doing an internship on the Hill. So it's like
really
So there's no.
Come on, give me the dirty secrets. Tell me about the cocaine orgies. I know they're happening.
Okay, really quick. You know what's hilarious about the Cawthorn thing is Well, one, I love that when that came out, the first thing that the GOP said about it when they had their talk with Madison was, Madison said he doesn't know what cocaine is. Like,
Cap.
He doesn't know what cocaine is. Like, okay, maybe he's never used cocaine before, but he's seen a movie, right? And then on top of that, his office is one of the booze offices. So
The what?
the booze, like boozing offices, like they drink in the office.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, because like some of these offices, the disparity between like staffs it's fucking crazy. How they're all their own little kingdom. The members don't have any like real like overarching rules. They can set their own rules for their office. So like one office, you'll have people coming in with, like shorts, flip flops, and like they'll smoke cigars or cigarettes in the office and shit. And then you'll go to the next office over and it's like you gotta be suit, tie, real fucking rigid. Yeah. So there's that. And then I will say the Republicans recently have been bitching about Democrats not bringing any legislation to the floor. And this session has been extremely slow, incredibly meek, an incredibly meek Congress.
Yeah.
So, but the problem is the Republicans have not countered any of this shitty legislation with their own.
They're kind of just like holding ground, right?
Yes, and none of this shit would pass anyway. Don't get me wrong. It's the perception by the populace. It's the perception of the voters. And even if this shit was going to get struck down or held up in committee, it would at least look good to put some fucking legislation out there for their voters to kind of see what we're trying to do. Yeah. That's my biggest gripe right now.
I mean, we have the same on the left, right? That there's no dubs on the board. There's no check marks that the administration, if Biden runs again, I want to get your perspective on that too. If Biden runs again, like, what is he going to say we did? Like, we did the thing, Jack. We did the,
infrastructure bill.
Yeah.
That's
infrastructure bill. That's like a third.
They're going to have to lean on that.
Yeah.
Like heavy.
Jesus Christ. So that's kind of interesting. But who smells like sulfur? Is it the cigar rooms, or is it like, does Nancy Pelosi's office just smell like a volcano?
It's funny. I just did a stream. I streamed yesterday to do a little test run, and I was going over some of the Ukraine stuff. And right before I got on, it was when the news came out that Pelosi went and spoke with Zelensky, and I even was like, well, fucking, I gotta give her credit right now. She's walking around a bombed out fucking war zone less than a week after missile strikes happened. So it's like, I got to give her credit. I'm not a partisan hack. I really don't hate anybody just because they're on the right or the left. I will say, the offices that I can't stand are the ones that would rather go on Fox News and do a bit and bitch and moan, and everybody knows who I'm talking about on the right. Those same people are the ones that won't fucking answer calls, won't come into meetings, won't co-legislate, co-sign bills and shit.
Those are the motherfuckers that can campaign and fundraise, aren't they? Did your mic just go out? Did I just mute you?
That?
Oh, you're back.
Okay. MTG raised the most money in the GOP, I think, in the last quarter. So, and it fucking kills me because the GOP gets painted as the party of Marjorie Taylor Greene, Paul Gosar, Madison Cawthorn, and Jim Jordan. And I'm sorry, but they are fucking hated by a fucking massive portion of the Republicans on the Hill, the staff, the people who are actually doing the job, because they do not represent like the values of what the Republican Party is supposed to be. They're just latching on to these wedge issues and these culture war issues at a time where that's what riles up the base. That's what gets money flowing.
Yeah, well, that's what gets people out to vote.
Fucking no, and I hate it, and I want to off myself
if that's
a video game.
If that's getting people out to vote, I mean, hell, Donald Trump expanded the Republican voter base in 2020. Like, credit where credit is due, right? If that's what's getting people out to vote, is that not where the Republican voter base is? Or against CRT or like Antifa, or against like the communist Marxist overtaking of the country.
I think the populist bend to this can typically like pull and like drag people back, because like you heard a lot of like there's a lot of like people that say like, oh well, I was a Bernie Sanders supporter, so then I didn't want to vote for Hillary, so I voted for Trump back in 2016. And then you had these similar situations where the populist candidates can see some some switching between the parties. The parties don't matter so much as like the populist rhetoric. I think that is incredibly popular, and it definitely moves a good chunk of the base, but it's just like I want to go to.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish.
I just want to move to. I want to move to a world where the Republican Party is the party of fiscal conservatism, constitutionalism, and is worried about like the big picture, is worried about America's standing in the world and creating a better society for our children and the next generation. And I don't think that gets done by fucking bitching about about LGBT issues, or talking about like I can't even think right now of like all these fucking dumb wedge issue bullshit that I hear about all the time.
CRT, transgender bathrooms.
Yeah, and it a lot of
BLM.
It revolves around like the LGBTQ community, and it's like if the Republican Party could just get past that and stop fucking worrying about that. And I think we've slowly seen the Republican Party start to do that. It's just not all the way there yet. It's like if we could get past that, I think a lot of the culture war bullshit would probably go away. But
well, I'm trying to
like I guess CRT is a good example of not that. But
like what kind of Republican, if there's like an era, like Bush, Reagan, Bush 1, like what's like the Republican Party era? Because when I'm looking at the Republican Party over the last 50 years, all I'm seeing with the Trump era and like the Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz people that have kind of come out of the woodwork, Lauren Boebert, all I'm seeing is the normalization of the underpinnings that exist within the Republican Party, right? Trump just made people comfortable with the reality of republicanism, American republicanism.
I just think they've defecated all over what it means to be like.
How though? Republican Party
or conservatism, like, because these people. Okay, good example. Trump spent like no other president has ever spent before. That's not fiscally conservative by any means, right? It aspects to this that I think that get lost just by talking about shit like, oh, the elites are keeping you down. That's all it ever goes back to.
I mean, yeah, that's
always
like that's always been the case, though. You know who Paul Weyrich is?
Oh, who's Paul Weyrich?
Paul Weyrich. It's a very good clip on online called "Good Government" or "Goo Goo Government," I think is the title of the video. Paul Weyrich is the co-founder of the Moral Majority. Until his death in the last, I think, couple of years, hosted weekly talks for American Exchange Council, Heritage Foundation. I think in 1984 he addressed like the CPAC, or it might have just been Moral Majority. That the model of the Republican Party is that the more people who are able to vote brings down the chances in the Republican Party's winning in elections. But we don't want people to vote in the Republican Party. This is Paul Weyrich saying this. And Ronald Reagan was at the speech, and like I said, he's continued to work within these foundations, right? So when I'm looking at Donald Trump and all of these, current Republican media talking heads, right? They're the ones that were on Fox News every night that are saying we need to, ensure that we have election security, and 2020 was stolen, blah blah blah. Like, this is just the same shit.
Yep, that's another one that I was thinking of, that like this like war on our elections and shit, like,
yeah, it's all bullshit.
The same people that were fucking making fun of Hillary Clinton fans, saying, "Oh, fucking cry about it. Who's your president?" It's
yeah, who's the snowflake?
However
now,
many,
right?
Look at how big of a gap. Trump beat Hillary by, and then Biden comes and beats Trump by a bigger gap, and they're like, "Fuck, it's razor thin." I agree. Like, I don't know, if you look at how like society has progressed, there has been a shift left in nearly every social issue when you talk about the average American.
Well, sure, that's how time goes. That's how progress happens. Right?
Yeah, I understand. And so you look at a lot of the policies of the Republican Party today, you could say they line up pretty well with like 90s era Democrats, with like Bill Clinton era Democrats.
Well, I would say that a lot of people think that the progress of time, moves in a straight line but has speed bumps. That's kind of how people view progress, right? Where there's little issues where we stop a little bit and we have to fight for it, and then we move past it. I like to tell people it's more like a horizontal lightning bolt, that we go and then we move back a little bit, we go and we move back, and we're always moving forward, but there's eras where we kind of regress a little bit. We're in one of those regressive eras right now, where in 2015, 2017, we started to get more normalized with, people being trans, and that certainly is the case today. But the reactionary force that's pushing back against it, well, that's coming from one particular camp, right? That's coming from the evangelical Christian, like social conservative camp of the Republican Party. There are certainly people within the Democratic Party who want nothing to do with this, but that's where their party's at, is making sure that, this group of marginalized people is, represented. So so if there's something within the Democratic Party that, and I'm not trying to convert you right now, I'm just trying to see like kind of where your mind is at, because you're not unreasonable, you're sharp, and you're like working, you're in there. So like, if there's so much shit going on in the Republican Party, like, where is the footholds of the Democratic Party that you do want to like work bipartisanly on?
Oh, like they're like, we need to be working with the Democrats on healthcare. We need to be, I think, like, infrastructure is obviously one of those things that everybody, like, real infrastructure, and this is the problem, is like when you talk about infrastructure now, it's gotten conflated with a lot of like pork that gets tossed into these infrastructure packages. But like real infrastructure, the building of roads, bridges, and then obviously things like expanding broadband services. There's a lot to infrastructure that I think the aisle needs to be reached across. Energy and commerce. When we talk about like that committee specifically needs to be fucking intertwined, because we have to work together if we're going to create a future where America's like energy production is not only can like sustain like our country, but is also able to like facilitate the growth of less developed nations. Because until these less developed nations start to work their way out of fossil fuels and out of non-renewable energies, we're not going to solve any of these problems.
I mean, we should be leading that shit, right? We're like the big dog in town. We should be leading the charge on that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
exactly. Like, we need to facilitate. We need to be the leader. That way, we can facilitate the growth of these underdeveloped nations. Because without them getting on board, it doesn't matter. And then,
well, like, what's...
I think that.
Go ahead.
I think military, like, there's more agreement with the military, and I'll stop there.
Well, yeah, we don't have to get into the military thing, but like, what's this pork in these like infrastructure bills you mean? Because like, sure, like roads, bridges, buildings, transportation, and broadband, and obviously like water and stuff. Like, that's all like hard infrastructure. What's like the pork?
Well, if I go back into the actual infrastructure bill that got passed by the Biden administration, I think it was 15% of that bill was money allocated to those services, and that includes like the expansion of broadband. A lot of that bill also included pet projects from our congressmen, our congressmen and women. There are, I can't remember the specifics, but there's a lot of like programs and a lot of like other shit that gets funded in that bill that have nothing to do with the building of roads, bridges, waterways, sewage lines, shit like that.
I mean, I don't know what the pet projects were, but I mean, it sounds like, I mean, the argument like that the people who were trying to push for the Build Back Better thing was like, this is human infrastructure. And in large part, that's true. Like, homeless shelters, this human infrastructure, housing, that's human infrastructure. It's straight up infrastructure. So, I mean, it seems like a lot of it was cut out because if the Republicans were being honest, it was because it's not like bridges and roads, pipes and wires.
Well, what I'm saying is that the thing that you can find common ground and where you would see the aisle being reached across is on shit like roads, bridges, waterways, sewer lines, power lines, shit like that. Electrical, like the development of like better electrical grids. There's so much stuff like that.
Yeah, we're way behind.
Actually, huh?
I said, yeah, like you're right. Like, we're way behind on a lot of this shit.
I mean, it's tough.
Our infrastructure?
We are the leader. Like, we're developing like cutting innovations in all of the. Are you saying like? Oh, you're saying that with the infrastructure, like, yeah. We're fucking.
Yeah, like America's infrastructure is like shit. Yeah.
But also the problem is with America is it's the way it's structured and how big it is, right? So.
I mean, we can definitely fix that. I mean, unironically, like, this isn't communist China, but we could do some shit if we had the political will. We could do some crazy shit. I saw a fucking commuter train for the first time, like 3 weeks ago, and I lost my mind.
Wait, a commuter train,
like a commercial public transportation train for the first time in Louisiana, and I lost my shit.
Are you talking about a metro?
No, just not a metro, but like it's a double-decker commercial train that people can take between hubs.
Oh, really? Like at the street level, or is it like?
Yeah, it's like a dedicated railway. Like, we've never had one.
See, like in metropolitan areas, like, yeah, these are all really good ideas. It's just A bill, okay, like an idea that we got presented, speaking of trains, was that huge rail from, I think, Bakersfield, California, all the way in the southern part of the state, all the way up to like near San Francisco. Like projects like that, is that what you're kind of like talking about, where these massive projects to create like public transportation options?
Well, there was a lot of issues with that particular rail. I think it was San Diego to San Francisco. But I would love to see a national rail. That would get my tits so hard.
But rail sucks.
No.
We're gonna come up with something.
No,
better.
rail is the future. Rail, like, we are being beaten.
Absolutely, it's not.
No.
What do I do when I get off the rail?
One more lane, bro. I promise. One more freeway. I promise, bro. We'll fix traffic if we put one more lane, bro.
Okay.
Come on. High speed rail. That's it. There is no future with EVs. It's gotta be rail. There's no other way to do it. There's no future with EVs. Let me tell you that much.
Listen, in 30 years, I'm very specifically gonna remember this moment.
Okay.
I'm gonna find you.
Okay.
I'm gonna be like, and you can do the same to me, because me and you are on two different paths here. I don't see a world where rail is a viable option for everyone in a country the size of ours. Like, the amount of money that you would need to like sprawl that out would be so crazy.
Hell
and then
yeah.
it's so intrusive upon like the shit, like the fucking, we gotta cut rails all through people's yards and homes, like all across this country, so everybody's interconnected. If we can make it happen.
It's not just like slapping rails everywhere. We're talking about restructuring city planning, because city planning is like predictive of a population's longevity, and we do city planning horribly in America. It's bad.
I know. I'm getting my master's in public administration.
You know then?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I would.
It's really bad.
Well, that's what happens when you try to create a country. Like, again, we're so massive, and it was so the way everybody independently built these things out, and then we like worked off each other, and there was no way this was gonna not be a fucking shit show when we got to this point. That's I agree, it's fucked up and stupid, and there's a lot of room for improvement. I just don't I don't think there's any fucking prescription you could have laid out early on.
Come on, man, don't take the black pill on me. Come on, have some hopium. You got a pen right there. Huff your hopium. Come on.
I think we can fix it, but like, I just don't think the jump we have taken as a like human race has taken in the last, dude, you could even shorten it down to like 100 years.
Yeah, call it like the last century.
Like 100. The jump we had taken comparatively to the jumps that were taken before that. People like, we literally can't get our brains around it. I can only imagine what we're in store for. Like, that we're taking massive leaps in technology constantly, all the fucking time. And I don't know.
Yeah, dude, we could do all kinds of crazy shit. We just have to have the political will to do it.
Yes. And the communal will to do it. Like the individuals and the communities have to want to do this, right? It can't just be like the federal government wants it done, so let's get it done.
How do you feel about class consciousness?
I don't think most people identify themselves by their class.
Exactly. Why do you think that is?
Because everybody thinks that they're not going to be in the same position that they are.
Right.
Like,
everyone thinks they're temporarily embarrassed millionaires, not part of a working class.
I am a temporarily embarrassed millionaire.
Okay.
I'm just fucking with you.
Nah, you're good. You're good. One day, brother, inshallah, you will be big 3 comma gang.
That would be cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be some shit, dude. That'd be some shit. Maybe then you can start funding our railways.
I mean, yeah, I'll be the Elon Musk. I'll be the Elon Musk of rail.
Yeah, come on. Okay, so we wanted to talk about Elon Musk. Come on, man. You gotta admit that Hyperloop stuff is so stupid.
Yeah, the Hyperloop thing, it looked... I don't... To be honest, I've never looked into the entirety of it, but, like, from my understanding, there were pretty, like, obvious problems that kind of they just, like, pushed through and didn't... They're like, well, we're gonna just keep going. Like, with the whole exiting of the tunnel, if anything were to go wrong.
Well, I mean, the obvious problem is that you're trying to not do trains, but the logical conclusion of, like, your idea, fast interconnected travel between metropolitan hubs, is a train. Like, that's the solution, and you're trying to do something other than that because you want it to be privatized so heavily instead of just saying, here is public transportation.
I mean, yeah, I just don't know if he just wants it to be privatized so badly. It's just like, I think he thinks they can do it better than the government, and obviously it didn't go that way here.
Yeah, well, I mean, of course it's to privatize it, right? That's his one interest, right? Making sure that his investors are repaid for their investment, and year over year we see increasing profits. Like, that's
why did he buy Twitter?
What's that?
Why did he buy Twitter then?
Oh, I think because he wanted to. I'll be honest, my initial prediction of it was I thought it was a rug pull situation. I thought he was gonna, like, rug pull the Twitter stock, and, like, that's it. But hey, fucking called that one wrong.
Yeah, I don't think it's like just like he's a fucking our knight in shining armor and he's coming in to get us the gift of free speech or whatever.
It's just definitely not that. He doesn't give a fuck about free speech.
I think he cares about free speech. I don't know if he's going to be able to make it this, like, you know, utopia of free speech. I think they're obviously be rules that have to get set up, and at some point people will bitch about something or somebody will get censored, and then that's not my point. I just think he saw how it was being run was dog shit. There was no other means to make it not dog shit without outright buying it, and, you know, he did it. And again, it may not be just for free speech, but it absolutely has something to do with it.
Come on.
I would say it's like 60% free speech, 30% fuck you to Twitter and, like, the Twitter board, and then 10% maybe my adjustments to this platform make it a profitable company. But Twitter has literally never shown itself to be a profitable company.
Yeah, it's not meant to.
Well, yes. So he's obviously showing that he's not purely driven by profit incentive.
Come on, man. Did he believe in free speech when a journalist who criticized him ordered a Tesla and he canceled the order? Did he believe in free speech when a profile meant to track his private jet, he offered a Florida student $5,000 to delete the account? Like, is that free speech?
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
I think that, like, a lot of times we're equating free speech to, like, something that it's not. Like, free speech is, like, not having reprisal by the government.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not going to get arrested or punished for your speech, right? And that's why I kind of get annoyed. I shouldn't have even said what I said, because, like, Twitter had the right to be doing whatever the fuck it wanted, how it wanted to do it, for years now, and they could have continued to, and I couldn't have a leg to stand on about bitching about it, because they're a private company.
Yeah. I mean,
so I don't know. When we start saying the same thing towards, like, Elon, it's like, if he wants to shut somebody the fuck up, I don't think that's like him being against free speech. I think that's like him not wanting somebody to say some shit about him.
I mean, I also don't know what exactly people mean by like, oh, we want Twitter to be a free speech platform. It's like, well, what? Like, there are, look, I'm on my third Twitter account, okay? Like, as a leftist, like, I've had my shit removed, okay, for saying shit that's like, you know, anti-capitalist, and during BLM saying some shit about cops. Like, I've had my profiles deleted. It's not free speech or anti-free speech against the right or anything. I mean, social media has a right leaning bias. You may disagree with that, but the top performing profiles on like Facebook are all Daily Wire and shit.
Yeah, I would say what is interacted with on social media might have there might be more right-leaning activity, but you wouldn't say like the Twitter board, the people who were on the Twitter board, they weren't right-leaning.
I certainly wouldn't say that they're left-leaning. Well, it also, we kind of have to make a distinction between,
you wouldn't say social, you wouldn't say the rules and the TOS that they set up had effects that were specifically driven at like left-leaning social issues, such as the whole misgendering or dead naming of people.
Well, I mean, that's just including a group of people under discrimination, right?
I don't know if you can consider dead naming or misgendering as like discrimination, but like,
well, I mean, Julia, you have to agree
I think
with
it's
this, right?
I think it's a mean thing to do and a dickhead thing to do, but I don't think it's like, I don't know if it's something that you should be policing.
Well, it's not policing, right? It's just keeping everything within a certain bounds of discrimination, right?
That's policing.
Dead naming for, well, policing might have some different connotations, but for the sake of argument, sure, we're looking out to make sure that people aren't violating certain like rules of the platform, right? So sure, policing, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it's quite literally, it's like calling I guess it would be the same as like telling a woman to go back into the kitchen, right? That is misogynist, and it's discrimination upon an immutable characteristic, being a woman, right? It's not, it's mean, it's a dickhead thing to say. It doesn't actually materially harm that person, other than, you know, if it's like
nobody was getting kicked off Twitter for that. Nobody would get kicked off Twitter for saying go back to the kitchen.
Right. Because
people were getting kicked off Twitter
is worse, right?
Yeah, but okay, here's one. The shit that that you were allowed to say against like police officers or politicians, we didn't hold that to the shit that you said wasn't held to the same standard if you were to say it to a member of a marginalized community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
these things would be looked at as double standards, and double standards that lean to the left. And I'm not saying this is a good or bad thing.
Lean socially to the left, or lean politically to the left?
Socially. That's why
I mean, there are reactionary, conservative, gay, and trans, and black, brown people.
They're not on Twitter's board.
Wait, what now?
But they're not on Twitter's board, or they weren't on Twitter's board. And they weren't.
No one like that is on Twitter's board.
Huh?
On Twitter's board of directors, or on Twitter's head of like terms of service? Because are we confusing people who are in a department that is in charge of something, or are we talking about people who own the company? Because
board
like
of directors has
I'm not going to blame Twitter's board or Twitch's board when I get banned. I'm going to blame the terms of service and securities department. Right?
I guess, but the board has final oversight over that, over the TOS department.
Sure, they don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck what.
Absolutely, if they didn't give a fuck, they wouldn't have cared about Elon's.
That's okay. Like, here's the thing. There's a difference between these two things.
Or the shit that he was bitching about.
It is within their material interests. Okay, it's within the interests of the board that if their user base is overwhelmingly in favor of these types of social cultural norms, and transgender people are part of our cultural norms, been here for a long time, then it's within their interest to ensure that that user base is protected and that they're not going to be dissuaded from using their product. It is not within the board's interest for one person to own it. That isn't them.
Yeah, I agree, but they have a fiscal responsibility to do to sell it if they're brought an offer that's above market value. That's just that's just how it works. That's if you want to have a publicly traded company, that's the risk you take.
Yeah, but again, of course it's within them to be like, okay, well, I like my station, I like what I'm doing and how I'm getting my wealth, so I want to maintain it. So it's right within their interest to kind of push back against that. Ultimately, they folded. So.
Well, yes, and again, I'm not trying to get bogged down on is social media left-leaning or right-leaning. I don't think it really is. I think it's whatever space you're in and the echo chamber that you've created, it's typically what you're going to end up seeing regardless. And I don't think a lot of people realize there's a bunch of other worlds going on around their little world that they're in their social media bubble. So they're obviously going to see shit in certain perspective, a certain perspective. My issue is that creating a platform that allows for more discussion and does not remove as much of the shit said on it is by its very nature a more free speech oriented place. Not that they have any real ability to remove somebody's ability to speak freely. They have the ability to allow them to amplify that voice, right?
So if you're in, let's say you're in the position of that department that's going to be doing the terms of service policies, right? That you're there. We're about to update our terms of service. What's a line for you? What's something that's bannable?
I think it's as simple as just
doxing,
policing things that we have laws on the books for incitement, violence, or threatening somebody, or causing a panic. There's a lot like you said, doxing. Tough because I don't know how you 100% confirm because doxing kind of has an intent aspect to it. It's not just the releasing of somebody's info, because you could hey, come to Jamie's party, it's at this address, blah blah blah. Did that person just dox Jamie? No, but if you were to be oh, this fucking bitch, Jamie's address is blah blah blah.
I mean, I would call if you're there's a place for saying where to meet up, but if you're on Twitter and you tweet hey, meet up at this address.
People do that on Facebook, right?
Well, they do that for events, right? That's a little different.
But my point being is that
well, I think there's a self-dox that the Libs of TikTok owner did. She self-doxed with the intention of outing this reporter who's doing a follow-up. So Libs of TikTok did a self-dox and then claimed
I think both sides to that party were I think the Libs of TikTok lady should not be shocked that she was doxxed and should not be bitching that she was doxxed. She's kind of become a public figure in that way.
She wasn't doxxed. She doxed herself.
By the definition of doxing, it is releasing somebody's information, name and physical location,
right?
Basically, with the intent of scaring them or inevitably causing them harm.
Right. The reporter was doing a follow-up because someone else with the same name was doxxed. being the wrong person. So the reporter was going to the actual person's home to confirm if that's their home for the report.
Yeah, but then she released an article that if you tracked it back, you could find the lady's fucking home address. Whether or not that woman fucking put that information out on the internet herself and then it inevitably bit her in the ass, that's not the point. The point is that woman, the writer, Taylor Lorenz, wrote a piece that had the Libs of TikTok lady's name, and then you could follow a link that then gave her fucking address and I think her phone number out as public info.
So it didn't have her address, it had her contact.
That's doxing though, come on.
No, that's called unmasking. This person... So there's a difference in journalism, okay?
This is real muddy. This is very muddy.
It's complicated. It's not like one-dimensional, right? It's a complicated thing. We're talking about press. We're talking about the privacy of an individual who has a public platform that has access or has influence over legislation. It's been cited by legislators. So this is a person who is influencing public policy. So that's someone who has to be unmasked, what is called unmasking in journalism.
Damn.
Right. So if George Soros was hiding behind
she had finally gotten to the point. You're right. She had finally gotten to, and that was what I prefaced all this with is that I do think this was coming. If she continued to grow the way she was going, like she was going to get doxxed. It just it felt like
better to have the appropriate person and not someone uninvolved ethically, right? Random person or person responsible for X, Y, or Z, whatever it is. Doxing bad, but incorrect doxing
that's
worse.
My whole, yes, and the only reason I even mildly give a shit about that is because the chick had previously bitched about being doxed and constantly talking about how harassment can come from the releasing of like that info. That's the only reason I think people. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's the only reason anybody sunk their teeth into that.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you and I like read that or watched that and arrived to different conclusions, because that seems like an empathetic thing that she was talking about. I have been doxxed. I have been harassed. So feeling the brunt of that and then getting criticized for ensuring that correct people.
Done that. She had they were pulling clips of her from like a year ago though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's not.
So you would understand like why she would want to make sure that the right person is cited as being the owner of the account, right?
Yeah, but then once she figured that out, she shouldn't have then wrote the article and posted it the way she did. Is all I'm saying.
Okay.
She shouldn't have. All she had to do was put the fucking lady's name out. That's it. Like, just end there. Fucking state her identity. That's it. Don't have a link to a page that provides her address. That's a whole fucking different thing.
I'm fairly certain she didn't include the address.
There was a link in the article that she wrote that you could click on that then took you to a page that showed that woman's not just her address, I think her phone number as well.
Right.
So to me, if I were to take the situation and make it some fucking somebody that's sympathetic to the left, and they got put in the same situation as libs of TikTok, and they got fucking their name and then address additionally put out there, most people would say that you dox that person. And I get that there is a term unmasking. I kind of heard of it. I don't know like where we draw the line with this, but I can't think of many situations where it is acceptable for you to put the address or allow the address to be easily found through a direct connection through your article. I just think there's a big difference there.
Should we know where Rupert Murdoch is? Like what his address is?
Like I don't know if, does anybody know what Rupert Murdoch's a home address is.
We
know.
we have listings for, you know, his multiple homes, but yeah, we know where his address is. This person has a vast amount of influence over media, which has influence over voter bases, which influences legislation. So it's kind of, I mean, ethically, even if, and I'm trying to see if we can find it just so we can be sure if that address was leaked.
But it's like, it's the combo of these two things. I get what you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
you could probably find my address, like even in an apartment, if you did enough digging through public documents. Like, that's not the point. That's not the docs. It's when you put it out and allow it to either be, whether it's in there directly, like here's their name and here's their address, or if it's like here's their name and then like a direct link to something, like where a connection can be easily made to find that person's name and that person's personal address.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want people like to be harmed from it, for sure. Like there obviously is like a line, and that, like, this is why like ethics in journalism is like a gigantic topic, right?
I mean, I do think it was inevitably going to happen that Libs of TikTok was going to get outed. She's done enough now to where she should probably expect it.
Oh yeah, I mean, eventually someone was going to do it.
You could, yeah, and you could even blame her if you want for, if it was really that big of a deal, you probably should have covered your tracks better from the start.
I mean, not taking a picture of the street that you live on is probably, and then posting it is probably not helpful, right?
This is all, we can all agree here. My only issue comes with the writing of that article and then the way Link happened. And again, I don't think it's even that big of a fucking deal, except for the fact that the lady who wrote it is a person who's spent a good amount of time talking about these things.
Yeah, well, we kind of got into the weeds with this, but let's kind of circle back. How much time do you have, by the way?
I got about 9 more minutes. I got
yeah. Well, we can kind of wrap up because I don't want to take too much of your time. We've had a good conversation for about 2 hours now. That's crazy.
No, really good combo. Thank you.
Yeah. So I don't really know how do we want to cap this off?
Like I said, I do want to speak again in the future.
100%.
Once I'm up and running, I'd love to have you on. I guess give me your, like, what do you think is going to happen with Elon? Like, what do you think what is this all for? Like, why is he doing this?
Probably advertising, you know, maybe connection, like some kind of thing with Neuralink, not Neuralink, Starlink. There's a lot of links. Maybe something integrated with that. I don't know. I don't really know what my predictions for it are. My cynical side, my doomer side, says not good. Don't want wealthiest man owning a social media platform that journalists and the press use as a record. Like, Twitter is in the Library of Congress, right? Like, there are people's tweets that are in the Library of Congress. A lot of people within journalism use Twitter as a not only communication platform, but for disseminating, you know, exposés and articles. And I like that, you know, especially as I don't know if you and I would be considered media, but if I'm using it to, you know, spread my platform, I would like that
on some level.
Yeah, on a crazy level. Internet's weird these days. But I don't know, man. I don't trust. I have a natural distrust for anyone with 2 or more commas in their wealth. So I don't think it's within the interest, and I'm just being conspiratorial because I don't know what the future holds.
Fair enough. I mean, and I think he's like a mysterious enough guy that, and like, I don't think anybody has like a real good read on what he values, or what his like real end goals are. But like, I don't know.
I think it's just wealth hoarding. It's just like,
no reason
be
to
more
freak out.
rich. I think that's literally it. I think that's his sole motivation. He's a deadbeat dad. He from some
his kid's name he has sweet kid names though. like fucking X1 or some shit. I don't fucking know. All his kids' names are ridiculous.
If you say so. I think it's dumb. I think it's trying to be a
I'm
meme
not being
lord.
serious.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I can't tell.
No, yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. From unconfirmed reports I've heard, like that when people go to hang out at Elon Musk's house when he was married to Grimes, they would just be blasted on MDMA whenever they would go to hang out. Nothing against drug use, but I think the man's brain has like issues. And I don't mean it because he's neurodivergent. I think he's like a sociopath.
Dang, a sociopath.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really hope you're wrong.
Me too.
I'm not gonna diagnose this man with anything. I know that he's different than 99.99999% of humans.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like someone who abandoned 7 kids, just like, I don't know. His moral compass is fucked.
I don't know. I really don't know anything about his like
2 marriages, man. 7
life.
kids, not involved with any of the kids' lives. Come on.
I get like again. I don't know if he's like a good person. I just know he's done a swath of good deeds and brought a lot of his companies have brought a shit ton of awesome products to the market, and is going to eventually lead to, you know, even further big jumps in technology.
Can we agree that he's cringe?
He has his everybody's cringe and has their moments. I would say what's really cringe is the standing of him. I would say that's cringe. I would also say like just the fucking, like I said, the insults of him where it's like he's fucking stupid. Like I also find that shit very, very cringe. So
I don't know. I think people with no power can be allowed to be cringe at times to an extent.
Don't you think we all have the ability?
Oh yeah, within you there are 2 wolves. One is based and one is cringe, and we have to fight against the cringe one.
That is, yeah, that is fair. So, a lot of people lose that battle more than others, but
yeah.
Hopefully nothing too crazy happens with this and the world doesn't explode when the deal goes through, or it'll just get pulled out from under us and it'll not happen, and then you'll be right. It'll all be a big PR move.
Yeah. Hopefully, I mean, yeah, hopefully nothing comes out of it, you know? What's the difference between a bunch of millionaires holding Twitter and 1 billionaire?
Probably not a ton of difference if we're being real. Yeah. I think that's a good point to end on, is I don't think much is going to change, everybody.
Yeah. I appreciate you having a chat with me, man.
Oh, it was definitely a pleasure.
Yeah.
Can't wait to talk again in the future. You care if I plug myself really quick?
Yeah, go for it. As long as you send me the links to those cocaine orgies.
Yes. They're actually paper invites. Sorry. We don't do anything. I'm HalfBakedTakes. I am on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. I am planning to stream here in the coming, days or weeks, and you might see me sporadically being on there. But definitely love coming on, talking to people like you, getting on these panels, and I end up posting those to my YouTube, so you can watch any of this shit after the fact there. But again, Gremloe, thank you so much for having me on, and hopefully I'll see you soon.
Hell yeah. I want you on my game show.
Absolutely. Shoot me an invite.
All right, man. Later. Thank you.